in other news, demands are growing for Labour's Deputy Leader Angela Rayner to face a full police probe into her council house tax row.
Yes, this comes as conversations around the sale of Rayner's council house a decade ago continues to heat up, with the Deputy Labour leader saying she denies any wrongdoing, but questions remaining. Joining us now is the political correspondent at The Spectator, James Heale. James, can you just break down precisely what the argument is over here?
Sure, Tom. So this is about the sale of Angela Rayner's former council home in 2015, and the argument really is about how much tax she paid on that house and whether she was in line with all laws at the time, because according to this new book, which has been published by Lord Ashcroft, the former Deputy Party Chairman of the Conservative Party, there are concerns perhaps that she was not being completely forthcoming about which house she was living in at the time. She had one house where she registered it on the electoral register, and yet at the same time, she was also appearing to be living at another place, according to local residents in Manchester. And therefore, this has sparked a whole row, with the Conservatives now demanding that she be very forthcoming about the tax advice she received. And Rayner has been going out saying that the tax advice she's received suggests that she hasn't broken any rules. But of course, she's not willing to share that tax advice. And I think what's really complicating this whole story, Tom, is not just about the backstory of Angela Rayner, but because as deputy leader, she has been so quick to criticise others about their tax arrangements. Very leading the charge against Boris Johnson in January 2022 over Partygate, and therefore the concern is about whether she has been completely forthcoming here, and I think that's why we're in now month 3, it's now 1st of April, and still these questions are not going away anytime soon.
Yes, and now we have this ex-ethics advisor, Sir Alistair Graham, getting involved and calling for a full inquiry, a full police probe, is what The Sun is calling it today. I mean, the police are already looking into this, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's a kind of two-step process, really, which is that Greater Manchester Police are reassessing their decision not to open an investigation, and if that comes back and they think they should actually, upon reassessment, go through that investigation, then there'll be an investigation, and then, of course, they'll decide if she's done anything wrong. But I think today's Sir Alistair Graham's intervention is notable, partly because, of course, his interventions have been so critical of the Conservatives over the past 3 or 4 years. And on those occasions, Labour have been quick to amplify Sir Alistair Graham's claims and noted, for instance, that he was the former chairman of the Committee on Standards in Public Life under Tony Blair. And so now it seems that, the boot is on the other foot. And, of course, they want Labour to be equally kind of transparent and forthcoming, and to hold the same standards that they've been very quick to demand of others when it comes to the Conservatives in the past 4 years or so.
It seems that the Labour Party might spot an issue here, because Sir Keir Starmer has continually said he hasn't looked at this tax advice. He doesn't need to look at this tax advice because Angela Rayner has said that that's the tax advice and he believes her and takes her at her word. Is he just covering his own back here? If the police do find against Angela Rayner, he can say, well, I didn't see the tax advice.
That's a good point.
How could I possibly know? And he can sort of insulate himself from this scandal.
Well, I mean, that was so striking, really, about the Labour local election launch last week, was that Keir Starmer was saying, I haven't seen the advice. Some of his language was careful to sort of distance himself in some ways. But then afterwards, it was briefed that his advisers had seen it. And, of course, this is from a man who's made a great
advisers, not him personally. So he can throw his advisers under the bus. That's no problem. But he himself is insulated.
Well, quite, and as a former director of public prosecutions who doesn't actually want to look at the evidence, and suggesting that there's nothing to see here really, and it doesn't really fit with the kind of forensic Elliot Ness image that he's tried to craft over the recent years. So you're quite a striking one, and that's why the questions aren't going away, Tom, because basically there's been 3 months of this now, and still questions are yet to be answered, and that advice has not been shown publicly.
Yes, you would have thought forensic Keir Starmer would want to go through the tax advice line by line.
But also, Keir Starmer built his reputation saying when he was investigated over the beers he had in Durham during COVID, if the police find against me, I'll resign. He said that, and he built a reputation on the back of that.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Angela Rayner say something similar? If the police find against me, I'll resign. That would show that she has real confidence in her position.
Yes, it's interesting, your theory, that perhaps he's trying to insulate himself by not looking at the tax advice. Although, can he do that if his advisers are?
Well,
I've
yes,
already read
he
it,
can easily sack an advisor.
Yeah, true.
He can easily just say, that's not me, that's an advisor, they advised me incorrectly, that's their fault, that's not my fault.
Well, there we go. Forensic
James Heale
or
there, the political
slippery.
correspondent at The Spectator.